So what we got next, man? We'll be talking next.
Steelers Free Agency Wishlist.
Oh.
That's all we can talk about, man. I mean, moves are being made around the NFL. Steelers are, taking their damn time, but that doesn't mean we can't think of guys that we want the Steelers to bring in and sign with the team and be upgrades at positions of need, which is the obvious. But we got to also talk about other areas, which has been receiver. We need more power. We need more weapons. But most importantly, we need a veteran presence. We need a leader. Okay? Nothing against Deontay. I don't think he's that leader type because he's still young himself. We need a vet guy, man. We need someone that can come in very much like a Jericho Cotchery or who remembers a Lance Moore.
So basically you're saying we need Addison.
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not?
No.
17 or 32, Dan?
32 if we fill all the damn holes we need to fill. What I'm saying is we need a Jericho Cotchery. We need a Lance Moore. We need a Darius Hayward-Bay type figure. Okay? Stop laughing. That's not funny.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, who do you have in mind? I'll let you go first.
All right, the first name that comes to mind is obviously Jarvis Landry, right? Experienced guy, former Dolphins, Saint, Brown. I think he'd fill in very nicely in the slot. Very reliable, great hands. At this point in his career, he will just be a slot guy, veteran presence.
Number 3 receiver at this moment.
Exactly, like he was for the Saints last year. Of course, he had a couple injuries here and there, which he's been suffering the last couple of years, which is a concern. But I think he'd be a nice one-year guy for, 5-6 years max, which might be a little hefty, but that's the league minimum. I think he's worth that. Why not? Someone we could trust, someone with good hands, someone reliable. A guy that they could very well go under the radar for if they want some extra power, if they want size, if they want speed, if they want reliability. Zach Pascal, right? Former Colt. He played for the Eagles this past year. He was a very underrated target. Now, the Eagles were just too stacked offensively. So
that entire offense was – both sides of the ball were stacked.
Dirty.
It was crazy.
The defense was stacked. It was ridiculous.
I know. But this guy, man, is he went under the radar because of how stacked their offense was in terms of weapons. And he's still, he's got some flashiness to him. Great hands. He's a great blocker, the size, the speed. I think he's everything the Steelers could use for. He has that veteran presence to him a little bit. He's been in the league a couple years. I think he'd be a nice slot weapon, man. He's got the size in the slot for sure. I think that's a mismatch himself.
Yeah.
I'm also going to throw his name out there. Randall Cobb. Now, I don't know what he wants to do in the NFL anymore. He could be contemplating retirement. He's been tossed around a little bit. He was just reunited with A-Rod for 1 year. Now, A-Rod's probably going to be on his way out. What does Randall Cobb want in his NFL career right now? He's achieved almost everything he could want to achieve. Does he want to go to a young guy like Pickett? Does he want to go to a team like Pittsburgh? Does he want to mentor other guys? If he does, where? Pittsburgh's the perfect spot because of look how young we are at the position.
Of course.
I think he'd be a great fill-in, man.
Now, I think he's still, for his age, because he's 32 years old, I think he's still a capable slot option, a depth piece, and definitely, without a doubt, a leader.
Yes, 100%. I just think we need that veteran presence at the receiver position, man.
I think that's very important. I think that really matters because we have not had that since the names you listed, Cotchery, Moore, Hines Ward.
Yes.
But, I feel like these receivers need that. I think they need to understand how much it means.
Yeah. And, of course, the chat's throwing out Adam Thielen. I would love Adam Thielen. The guy's underrated. What a story he's been, man. I love Thielen. He'd be perfect in the slot. How much he wants, I don't know. He's still worth enough to make an impact in the cap room and on offense.
Even for him being 33 years old, he's probably going to want a pretty penny. He's probably going to get a pretty penny.
Thielen would be phenomenal. Like, I would mark out if we could have Thielen. I know he's not going to be here long, but I think he'd be a great weapon for Kenny. Absolutely. But I just don't know how much we can afford with Thielen. So I went with some guys that are relatively known, but kind of young, kind of cheap. It has that veteran aspect to him. So that's why I went with Landry, Cobb, and Pascal. Do you have any guys to add?
Yeah, I included Cobb and Landry. I do agree with those, but I added two different guys at the wide receiver position. One of them is Marvin Jones of the Jaguars.
Okay.
32 years old. He's 6'2", 199. He was a capable target for Trevor Lawrence for his first 2 years in the league, but especially last year when he was mainly the number 3 because of Christian Kirk and Zay Jones' resurgence with the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Marvin Jones just has that leadership. He's been around the league as he was a Bengal and a Lion and, of course, a Jaguar. He's dependable. He's reliable. He's still pretty quick for his age. I think he's the perfect slot guy, and he's the perfect guy to have in the locker room.
If there's a position we want to go a little older for depth and veteran purposes, it would be receiver because I think they need it. I think they need maturing. I think they need that piece in there. It's something we've lacked in that room for a while.
Yeah, and as far as like going young, if they're going to draft a wide receiver, Addison would have to be the guy because of all the connections everyone's been making.
Yeah.
We agree, the three of us together, that shouldn't be a move for them. But I agree. I think they need to go get a veteran guy, a guy that's been around a little bit in the league.
It's what the receiver room needs and has lacked for a while. So we'll see what the Steelers do. But
Yeah.
I think this Addison news is just really it might blind them from doing a move like that. Hopefully that doesn't blind them from addressing offensive tackle, not only in the draft but for agency.
But to be clear, if they went Addison, I'm not crying or getting upset or anything. So I
It-
just want to make that clear.
Yeah, for sure. Offensive tackle. There is a chance they do keep the Dan Moore and Chucks as their guys. They run it all back, or maybe they just want competition. Maybe they do feel, hey, Jones, Johnson, and Skoronski, they're all not going to be there. Maybe they have already went through that scenario and are like, hey, this isn't looking likely. So they address it in the offseason via free agency. If they want to bring in competition, if they want to bring in a solid starter, or if they want to bring in an extra depth piece, right? I'm trying to blanket every single scenario here, whether it's an upgrade, competition, or just depth. And for the first one, I went Andre Dillard, man, former first-round pick for the Eagles. He has that Andy Waddle connection, so he could bring him in. That could sway in Dillard to come in. I know Waddle might have an eye on him in free agency. He really didn't have much of a career in Philly because, he was a first-rounder and it kind of had a rocky start. He eventually got benched for Joy Mailata, who was a converted football player. I think he used to play rugby or something.
Yeah, it doesn't help, too, that Dillard, had a handful of injuries at the same time.
He did. But if they want to bring him in as depth, as a young guy, potentially competition, if they do want to keep Dan Moore, he could be competition for Dan Moore. I would like that. I think the Waddle connection might attract him to bring in Dillard, so we'll see. If they want to make a relatively very nice splash, if they truly want to fix the line, if they want to upgrade it and get someone with pedigree, with dominance and reliability, and like I said, make a nice splash, Mike McGlinchey, absolutely. He's one of the 49ers free agents. 49ers got a lot of free agents coming up. This guy probably tops the chart, all that. If they really want to make a big move, man, at the position, they want to move Chucks back to left. We're for that if they bring in a guy like McGlinchey.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. I think that's the splash we need at tackle, and I think that'd fill our problems for sure. I'm also going to go with a depth piece here, though. Cameron Fleming, man, former Bronco. He played for the Broncos last year, and this is more so of a depth piece that can come in for relief or if he has to start a game or two. He's a swing guy. He has experience there, which the Steelers adore in their backup tackles. So I think this guy brings, veteranship, the swing ability. He's a decent starter, nice fill-in, good depth piece. They could bring him in as that for sure. I'm also going to throw in a reunion, Chris Hubbard. Why not? You guys are probably thinking, oh, Kelvin Beachum. I'll go Chris Hubbard, man. Why not Chris Hubbard? He's that guard tackle mix. Steelers love him.
I think Beacham's too old. Man.
He is.
He's too old at this point.
He is.
No.
Hubbard, I think Thomas still loves him enough that he could draw him back in. But for offensive tackle, those are names I'm gonna target. But I do hope for a guy like McGlinchey. That'd be a great splash.
Yeah, McGlinchey, he's a big dude, 6'8", 310. He's 28 years old, so he's still kind of young at the tackle position. But, he's a former first rounder. I think he's a former top 5 pick, if I'm not mistaken. He was a very reliable right tackle. A good run blocker, pass protector for whoever the quarterback was, honestly, for the 49ers. But McGlinchey would be a hell of an ad. I think it'd be a big splash. I think another underrated one is Caleb McGarry out of the Falcons for right tackle. He had a big resurgence last year with Arthur Smith and how he was as a run blocker. His pass protection could be a bit better, I will admit, but McGarry definitely had a big year last year. I think he's in for a decent contract. The Steelers could definitely be a team that could be interested in him. This is all, of course, if they are interested in moving Chucks back to left tackle, to which he is capable of playing that position. But McGlinchey and McGarry for right tackle in free agency. If they want to fix that hole, I think those are two names to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think those are upgrades at right tackle for sure. Very solid splashes, guys with pedigree, and guys that just absolutely work in the run game for sure. I mean, they've really helped attack that run blocking for each team. And of course, we've seen the past couple of years the teams like the Niners, like the Falcons, have had. I don't want to say depth pieces, but more so fill-in stars, guys like Patterson and the guy from the Falcons this past year, right? He had 1,000 yards as a rookie.
Algier.
Thank you. I mean, the Niners, they're revolving door running backs. They keep succeeding there, right? Before they got McCaffrey. I think those would be great upgrades. But if they want to go depth pieces, we also throw in guys like Fleming and Hubbard. So,
Of course.
offensive guard, which I think we all agree is a must grab for the Steelers. If there's one position on the offensive line I truly hope they attack in free agency, and I've been saying this for months, is left guard specifically.
Yeah, left guard is probably the most important out of the two sides.
Yeah.
Because the right guard positions, I wouldn't say 100%. The entire line's not 100%, to be clear.
No.
I'm glad they were healthy. That was awesome. It's almost like a unicorn at this point, especially with the Steelers.
Yeah.
But yeah, the positions, all of them, even center, any of them can be upgraded.
They are.
But no position more than left tackle and left guard.
Yeah, and I think left tackle is just it can be fixed in the draft. I mean, if you hope for any of the guys to be there at 17.
It depends, though.
It does.
At this point.
But I think the value at offensive guard and free agency is much greater than the draft, which is why I suggest they fix it there. I have only 3 names to mention because they're young, they're reliable, they have starting experience, and they're guys that could be decent splashes, man. Dalton Risner, we talked about in episode 1. Would love him from the Broncos. He's been decent for the Broncos. And just everything we need in a left guard, for sure an upgrade. You mentioned Ben Powers of the Ravens.
And
He'd be great.
And those are 2 guys I have on my list. Those are 2 guys I'm really looking at when it comes to guard and free agency because they're pure left guards, and that's something that has been – you even mentioned it, Justin, I think last week, that one of the problems with the offensive line is the fact that they keep switching positions, having to learn those positions. I mean, Kevin Dotson, I feel like –
they're plugging guys in different places and trying to fill those gaps instead of actually – getting guys that play those positions naturally.
Yes.
And have been for a while.
Yeah, I remember Kevin Dotson in his rookie year. He was a right guard when DeCastro was hurt. He filled that role tremendously, but then they tried to assign him to left guard. He hasn't been the same.
No.
I don't think he'll ever recover.
And who could forget Kendrick Green last year going from center to left? In fact, I want to forget that.
My man was having birthday parties every game.
Oh, my God.
Getting pancaked and caked and thrown on the ground and ran over.
This man was a high school wrestler, man.
Bro.
He didn't look like it on the football field.
I couldn't tell. Wow. I'm gonna throw this name out there for depth purposes. Now, like we said about the Steelers free agents, we think they keep Hasenauer, but for extra depth and for the swing possibility and for the Indy Waddle connection, I'm gonna go with a former Eagle here. He was with the Jets last year. Nate Herbig, man, he's filled in as a starter a couple years for the Eagles and for the Jets last year, but he can play both guard positions. He's young. I think he's still only, 25 years old. Like I said, the Waddle connection, he's cheap. For depth purposes, I think he's filling very nicely.
That wouldn't be a bad option either, when you want to look at a depth prospect.
And the Steelers love bloodlines, and his brother Nick is entering the draft from Wisconsin.
That's right. Yeah, he's one of them splashy defensive ends, or edge rushers specifically.
Yeah.
But
little undersized, but you are absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like for a left guard, definitely has to be a position they have to at least look at in free agency. I feel like Risner and Powers, they're pure left guards. They're dependable. They're great starters, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they got to look at them.
That's it for the offensive side that I can think of. I mean, you can throw in a tight end here and there, but we already discussed it with Hayward.
If they're going tight end, I'd rather them draft one.
Yeah.
Because like what we mentioned earlier, it's like corner. It's kind of deep.
And I'm not looking at tight end as like, oh, my God, we got to address it.
No, hell
No, not anymore.
No.
Although it came at a cost.
No.
I hate to bring that up. I'm sorry.
Yes,
but
it came at a cost, but we all love youth here. Let's transition to the defense. We got a lot to talk about here. More so names on the defense and offense for free agency wish list here. Defensive line, man, probably has the most names I've listed of any position here because I mean, it's stacked. It's like linebacker and free agency. They have to make a splash there, right? They have to. The names are endless. Of course, Javon Hargrave. A Steelers reunion would be most welcome to all of us. I know he's 30, and that doesn't really sit well in the age category, but the guy's like Hayward, man. He ages like fine wine. He's coming off a career year. We never should have gotten rid of this guy. Never. And now that we have the opportunity to get him back, I would love for us to sign him back. Obviously, it would come at a big cost, a greater cost than what we could have got him back for originally. But
Yeah, he's one of the top, if not the top free agent right now.
he could hit $20 million. I'm not saying he will, but it could peak there. He's going to get a big payday, man. He's going to get a much bigger bag than he did the first time, which he's more than well deserved. We all love the Gravedigger. A Steelers reunion would be more welcome, man. He fits just perfect in our system alongside Hayward. I'd love a reunion.
Yeah.
But
I think we all would.
ultimately, I don't think that's going to happen. He's still going to be on my wish list regardless.
Yeah.
A guy that they could fill in and someone that is a reliable starter and is just a beefy dude. This guy's a mauler. This guy's a gap filler, man. Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't say that just because he has Tomlin in his name. Dalvin Tomlinson is a very good football player, very good defensive lineman. Another free agent for the Vikings, man. I mean, Vikings already have a lot of free agents. They already cut a couple guys.
Yeah, they did. But Tomlinson, when you look back at the Vikings season, their secondary was very bad. But their run defense was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the best ranked in the NFL. And Tomlinson was a big reason because of that.
Yeah. Former Giant and then a Viking, and, he continues to rise his name. Very underrated at his position, is he? I think he'd be a great guy. I think he'd be a good, great sign.
Yeah, fill that gap, close that hole, stop the run. That's what we need. That's what we've been trying to fix since Hargrave actually left.
Now, if the Steelers want to fill in guys for starting wise or for depth purposes or just to be like a 2-down guy if necessary or for obvious rundowns, right? They could bring in a guy like Kalen Sanders, right? Another big guy, a little undersized, but still a gap filler. He did well for the Chiefs. He was very visible on that defensive line. He's someone cheap. He's still someone very young they could bring in. I always liked him coming out of college, so him being a free agent, they could target him. Same thing with a Shy Tuttle, another guy for the Saints. They could bring him in. This guy's never going to escape me, Andrew Billings. He's just not.
Hey, he was a Tomlin guy before, the Bengals came and
Yeah, let's not forget he actually
stole him.
Yeah, let's not forget throughout that draft process in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, he actually had a private dinner with not only Mike Tomlin but Mean Joe Green.
But here's the thing, though. He's been a free agent a couple times, and the Steelers never targeted him. But his name I can't escape him. I don't know why. I still like Billings, and he did very well for the Raiders last year in limited reps. I'd like to bring him in. If they want to put him in as a 2-down guy, as a starter initially, I'm cool with that. For depth, absolutely. Especially with how many free agents we're going to have on the defensive line. He's a guy we could bring in. He obviously has that Steeler connection from the draft process. So I'd love to bring him in. I just can't escape the guy, man. But if they want to fill in defensive end, say Ogunjobi doesn't go, if they don't think Leal is ready enough or they want competition for Leal, they could grab a guy like Zach Allen. Now, his injuries have kind of stalled his progression and his stats a little bit. But for the Cardinals, man, he's alongside Watt and them. He's done very well, and he's still very young. Zach Allen will be a pretty decent splash and someone that could be alongside Hayward and fill in very nicely. His injuries concern me, but I think he has the body and the play style that would fit nicely.
Yeah, well, for sure. And he's only going to get better, in my honest opinion. He's still only 25 years old, so he's still very young. Year by year, he has been getting better with Arizona. He was a big part of that defensive line of not only their pass rush here and there, but definitely their run defense.
5.5 sacks last year.
Getting a guy like Zach Allen, I feel like would definitely fix a hole right there for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same thing for a guy like this guy's going under the radar, John Kaminsky of the Lions. Now, former Falcon, I believe, and last year, I mean, he fit like a glove with the Lions because you see the Lions changing their culture and the way they're moving around their team with Dan Campbell as head coach. This guy just fits there, and I would be very shocked if he's not retained by the Lions. But if he's not, 27 years old, I mean, I think he could fill in nicely. Here's the thing with him. His progression's been up and down because he's been tossed everywhere on that line, different alignments and assignments and responsibilities. I think alongside Cam, I think he could fill in nicely. Competition potentially for Leal or maybe even Ogunjobi, but for depth purposes, pretty much fill in that Wormley role. But I think he could build upon that. I think this guy's a sleeper and could be a nice addition for anybody.
He showcased that here and there with Detroit, so we could do that, wherever he goes to next.
Yeah.
For sure. I do want to throw out one more name since I have him listed down here on defensive tackle, and he's a guy that has first round pedigree, can't talk.
Yeah.
And he was a big part of that Jets defense last year. His name is Sheldon Rankins. He was a Saint. He was drafted by the Saints in the first round. He was a big part of that Saints defense within Drew Brees' last couple years with New Orleans. And he went to the Jets on a I think it was a 2-year contract. And year by year, he's had solid years. Him being alongside Quentin Williams with the Jets, stopping their run, being a decent, effective pass rusher. My only concern with him, honestly, is his injury concern.
Yeah.
Because even with the Saints and the Jets, he has a bit of injury concern. That is a little bit worrisome. But showing rankings, he's still 28. He's not that old. He's a pretty effective defensive lineman. I feel like with his experience as a number one previously with the Saints, and even at times with the Jets, I feel like he's a guy that could be somebody to look after in free agency.
Well, defensive line is they got names they could absolutely snag anywhere, which obviously is still a big concern for the Steelers. So whatever responsibility they want to fill, whether that's depth, whether that's a starter beside Hayward or at D tackle, they could fill that. They could do that in the draft as well. And knowing how Waddle was done with that position in years past with his resume and his track record, I mean, I think they're going to snag someone nice at the position. It's just a matter of where. But if they want to add flexibility to the draft process, they could do it in free agency, and they got guys to select anywhere for sure. Same thing is said for linebacker, inside linebacker to be more specific, because we only have Jack and Robinson.
I can tell you who's at the top of my list.
We all agree.
Yeah. Tremaine Edmonds.
The bloodline.
See, I got it right that time.
Listen, man.
Tremaine Edmonds, man. I mean, you stated earlier, wherever one brother goes, the other, I feel like, is bound to go.
He's going to follow.
With the same team.
That is absolutely an influence, and you can't tell me otherwise. Come on. They're hitting the mark at the same time, the same year. It's got to happen.
That's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a possibility for both of them to finally truly be together on the same team. And the Steelers are definitely a top team to have that connection happen, because they love the bloodline. It's like a destiny almost, really.
Tremaine Edmonds, out of everyone that we're going to list here, is probably the most realistic because of that Edmonds connection, because, I mean, I just feel like it has to happen. If you bring Terrell back, you have to bring in Tremaine. You just do.
Or at least you got to make a very good attempt at doing so.
Yes.
If you're the Steelers.
Now, to do that, they got to create cap space, which they haven't really done much. But
no, it's been quiet.
Yeah. Hopefully that changes, because a guy like Edmonds, I think he's gonna get a lot of offers, and he's gonna go through all of them. He's gonna think about all of them. But I think if Terrell gets the same offer from the same team, they're gonna go. But the Steelers got to be one of those teams, man.
Yeah.
Tremaine's obviously going to be at the top of our wish list, not only at the linebacker position, but of any position.
Any position.
And the thing is, he could still get better. He's only 24. He's only a couple months older than Devin Bush.
And I know everyone's throwing out like $20 million a year for. I don't think he's going to get that. I think he's going to get somewhere around 13 to 15, which is still pretty hefty at the position, but in today's market, I mean, you kind of have to. But at 24, 25 years old, he's got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, 20 million, I feel like is a little excessive right there, honestly.
Yeah.
But Tremaine to be a Steeler, I mean, that's a big possibility. That's what we all love. I think another name that us Steelers fans would like, and he comes from a rival in the Bengals, is Jermaine Pratt.
Yeah, you mentioned that in episode 1.
Yeah, that's another guy that I'd like to see with the team. To be honest with you.
Because, I mean, the Bengals are hitting a roadblock like many other teams, like the Eagles, like all these other teams where they have so many guys to prioritize. One guy's going to be the odd man out. Pratt could be one of them, man. You know, one of the homegrown guys for the Bengals in that building defense, and he's coming off a career year.
Yeah.
And we always liked him coming out of NC State, so why not bring him in to play the inside linebacker role? He has what we need. He has everything that we want in the position. Alongside Jack, I think they'd mix well together. So I would love Jermaine Pratt. He's still young. And again, not very flashy, but plays his role very good.
Very, very good.
I've always kept my eye on Pratt, even when we were playing the Bengals. I always kept my eye on him because I always liked him. He's always one of my guys.
Yep.
Now, if we don't land one of those guys, we could go someone very underrated, very young, very cheap, and someone that's played alongside great pedigree at the linebacker position for the Niners, Azeez Al-Shaair.
Yeah.
I really like this guy. He's got everything we need. Speed, athleticism, smarts, he can play. I mean, he comes from a great background and a great coaching staff, and the guy he's worked around, I feel like him in Pittsburgh would just be perfect.
Yeah.
Because he adapts such a strong head and a strong confidence at the position that we really need. I mean, he was around how many great defensive coordinators? How much great talent for the Niners?
Yeah.
Pairing him in Pittsburgh, man, he's gonna bring that level of competition, of competitiveness.
Yeah.
We need that at the linebacker position. I'm tired of these very stiff, lazy linebackers. That's how
limited
That's how
linebackers,
much
honestly.
I can put it.
Or just complacency, especially when you hear what Bush said. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the NFL regardless.
Yeah. Seeing
Oh, I'm a top 10 draft pick. I got nothing to prove. That's literally what he said.
Seeing the caliber of excellence that Shire's been around.
Dude, imagine being that way though, just so complacent that
I
you're
don't
like,
understand it.
oh man, I'm good regardless. Like I've had so much success in my career, but I've never felt like, oh man, I've done it all.
So you're telling me your uncle is Derek Brooks, and your dad played for the NFL, right? You
And won a Super Bowl with the Rams.
You have a bloodline of football career, right? And you're just happy. Hey, I made it. Like what?
It's like ever since he cut that rat tail, he's just been a completely Devin Bush. Maybe he needs to grow that back. Maybe the old Devin Bush will come back. I don't know.
See, I think Shire's the opposite. Like the mentality is the opposite. There's no way he's
especially
around.
the guys that he played under and Fred
That's what I'm
Warren
saying.
and Dre Greenlaw, the defensive coordinators. I mean,
The level of minds he was around, he's gonna adapt that. That's what we need, man.
and you bring a guy like him in to have him be not a project, but for Aaron Curry, our new inside linebackers coach, to work with him, a guy that's still young, that is a huge sleeper in free agency, to work like that, get him in there at inside linebacker. Al Shire could be something truly special.
Agreed. I'll throw this name out there because everyone keeps throwing it out there. T.J. Edwards, Eagles free agent. Undrafted linebacker, rose his way into the starting lineup and was very stellar for that front seven of the Eagles, man. Their linebacker position was very quiet in terms of names, but they played hard.
Yeah.
Guys like him and Kaiser White. N'Kobe Dean, right? N'Kobe Dean was a bench warmer because of guys like Edwards and White. I mean, that's how good they played. My only concern with Edwards is his speed, man. If he was faster, I'd absolutely give him an empty check. But his speed concerns me. But that's also not going to draw me away completely from not signing this guy. I love Edwards.
Yeah.
Another guy, like someone young, someone underrated, someone that's been building their name through a rough defense, David Long from the Titans. I think he'd be nice. I think he's young. He's got the speed and the coverage ability. He's good in the run game. And I think he could fill in nicely. He looks like and sounds like a prototypical Steelers signing. He's someone that you don't really hear from about, someone someone you're not very familiar with, but someone that could come in and be a nice splash.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
I'm also going to say this last player for linebacker, and believe me, linebacker is stacked at free agency. They can go anywhere. And I'm not going to mention any free agent veteran names like a Bobby Wagner or an Eric Kendricks or guys like that.
No, those guys are just too old at this point, you know?
And I'm tired of linebacker just being a revolving door of mid-season trades or one-year rentals. It's that we got to stop that. We got to stop. We got to grab someone young, someone that can fill the position for years. A James Ferrier like maneuver.
Yeah.
So just that's how I feel about the linebacker position. I'll go Bobby Okereke. He worked
Out of
alongside,
the Colts, yeah.
He worked alongside Darius, or now Shaq Leonard.
Well, even when Shaq Leonard was hurt last year, Okereke had to step up big time and take his role, and I feel like he did his job very well. You know, the Colts season was really chaotic last year, but when you look on that defensive side, Okereke was a guy that stood out. He's a hell of a run defender. He's not terrible in coverage. He may be a little consistent here and there, but I think I trust him better than anybody else on this team in this inside linebacker group, to be honest with you. Okereke would be a nice sleeper, an underrated name for the Steelers to potentially bring in. I think he's very deserving of a potential number one spot for any team.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, he's always been underrated, but stood out every time he watched a Colts game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'll throw this name out there, but I think because of his injury history, it's not really going to lead him anywhere outside of a depth piece, which is what his career's been ever since going to Dallas. Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State. Love the guy out of college. It's just it's a shame.
I don't know what it is. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but I still have a soft spot for Leighton Vander Esch. I feel like he still has all the makings to be a dynamic player in the NFL.
But his neck injuries, man.
just the injuries in general, like that's what really setting him back. I remember his rookie year, man, because I was always a Lane Van Der Esch guy. He was a guy that I wanted the Steelers to draft throughout that draft process.
Yeah.
He was a standout defensive rookie in his rookie season, but ever since that neck injury and his injuries continuing to come up, he just really hasn't been having that big impact or that big major role, when he was a rookie.
I feel like, unfortunately, he's already hit his ceiling because of his neck injuries. They're just too severe to invest a lot in him, but I'm going to throw him out there for a depth piece because he is nice.
He is nice.
Outside linebacker, edge depth, which is what we need, man.
Yeah.
Edge depth pretty much since Highsmith's rookie year has been very lackluster.
There's been a rotation of just that depth guys.
Hell, I'll even say since the Melvin Ingram short stint that
that situation, which that still confused me. Then again, we don't know, what he was promised, what he was told, what got him to sign.
Say, she say kind of situation. You don't know.
I don't think we'll ever know. I really don't.
But my fear is, could that be the same for Bud Dupree? We all love Bud Dupree. We love to bring him in. It's all a matter of what he wants. Does he want a 1-year prove-it deal with some team?
I would think Bud would know what he wants coming up front.
Yeah.
He's not going to sign with the Steelers. They're not going to tell him that he's not going to be in that position.
No.
There's no way they're going to be like, hey, you're going to start over Highsmith. And then,
no.
another Ingram situation. It's not going to happen.
No, it's all a matter of what Bud wants. Does he want a 1-year prove-it deal where he can get another starting gig somewhere else? Or does he want to play a depth role behind Highsmith, behind Watt, which would be excellent? At this stage in his career, I don't know. It's unfortunate that his injury really stalled his progression and his prime. Or you could throw out the argument, oh, well, he only played so well to get that bag and then got lazy, like everyone assumed when he was a free agent for the Steelers, right? I don't know. It's all a matter of what Bud wants nowadays, but I'm still going to throw his name out there. I think a reunion
absolutely.
would be perfect.
I think it's a reunion that we would all like to see. He definitely still has that chemistry and that bond with TJ Watt. I don't think that'll ever be separated.
No.
Dupree, ever since that ACL injury, I remember that year vividly. He was breaking out. He was bound for a Pro Bowl season.
He was everywhere.
And I remember that ACL injury. That was devastating to our defense. That really hurt. But Highsmith did step up within the later part of that season. But
he's coming off 15.5.
Ever since that ACL injury, he hasn't been the same player. I don't think he got lazy. I just feel like that injury definitely took a toll on him. And with him getting older, him aging, he's not I don't think he's a starter caliber every down guy anymore.
No.
I think he works as that rotational edge rusher, to which the Steelers have been experimenting. They've been trying.
Yeah.
They did it with Highsmith in his rookie year. They've been trying to do it with Malik Reed and who was that one guy? The freaking tattoo guy. What was his name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Cassius Marsh.
That guy.
Cassius Marsh.
Well, he was a former Ram, right? Was it Rams?
Seahawks, and then he went to the Bears, which that controversial ref shit started. Monday Night Football, remember that?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Of course, we had Derek Tuska. So the revolving door of primary edge rush depth has been bad. Bringing Bud back would be nice.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's go with O'Shane Zimenez, man, from Old Dominion in college. And he's been with the Giants for a couple years. And hasn't really found his role outside of a depth piece. Even when the Dolphins, the Giants were just bare at their position for a couple years before they got to where they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, even then he still couldn't find his. I think as a depth piece, he stood in nicely as an edge guy. Now he'd be switching schemes from a 4-3 DN to a 3-4 outside linebacker, which might suit him a little better. But I think as an edge guy, we could bring him in and see what he's got.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw this name out there because he's a little familiar. And same thing with Zimenez. I mean, coming out of college, he just hasn't found his footing. Chase Winovich. Who remembers him?
Oh, wow. Yeah, the Pittsburgh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
born and raised, right, I believe?
I think so. But he does have that, pre-draft visit, and they went to dinner with him around that draft season. So yeah, there's that connection there.
One of the Rooneys, was it Dan Rooney that not the Dan Rooney, one of Art's kids. But didn't he have a dinner with him or something?
I think so. I think Tomlin attended that as well. So I mean, there's that connection. I'm not gonna buy too much into that. I'm just gonna throw his name out there because he's a free agent, and that might draw the Steelers back in. Like, hey, he's a free agent now. Maybe we can snag this guy. But I'm going to go a little better. I'm going to throw these underrated names out there. Some guys you may have never heard of, but as depth pieces, as special teams guys, really stood out. Caden Ellis, Saints outside linebacker. He's been a rotational piece for their very, very good front seven defense. Maybe not so this year, but he's coming off what? I think 7 sacks as a rotational guy. I think he's at his age, at his cost, he could come in and be a very nice primary edge guy. To just rotate with Highsmith and Watt, which he'd still see a good percentage in snaps. So I think he's someone that's just hungry, that's strong. He has the length. I think we can bring him in. Same thing for Anthony Nelson. Very similar story to Caden Ellis, except he's a bit more of a special teams guy. But
one of them is Dante Fowler.
I like that. First round pedigree.
He was a great rotational edge defender for the Cowboys. He had 6 sacks as an edge defender.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he did. And I think as a rotational piece, he can be more than capable of rotating with Watt and Highsmith.
But last year, right? We even put him on our free agency wish list last year.
Yeah, we did, yes.
And I would love to bring him in.
One more guy I wrote down is Arden Key of the Jaguars.
I remember Arden Key.
Arden Key, he was drafted by the Raiders, didn't really do much there, but went to the Jaguars. And even when they drafted Trayvon Walker first overall, they still had him and Arden Key in rotations, and Key was a guy that stuck out on that defense, that growing, rising defense right there as a rotational piece.
Yeah.
Considering what happened last year with Watt and him being injured, and the guys that we had, Malik Reed and I almost said Jarvis Jones. Jameer Jones, Jesus Christ.
Jarvis.
You have a Jones at linebacker. Good God, forget about it.
Let's not go down that hill again.
Yeah, really.
I feel like it's very important to have a key number 3 edge guy to fill that rotational role, because that's what we need. The Steelers have been experimenting that for years now.
If there's one position I am confident they absolutely attack in free agency, it is the edge piece. There's guys they have to grab.
Yeah.
And rumors of Bud Dupree coming out of the I don't know how reliable they are, but coming out of the combine, they said Bud Dupree, a reunion to Pittsburgh could be very possible, is very likely. We'll see what happens in the coming days, but edge needs to be addressed in free agency, not only because the names in the draft are pretty light after day 2.
Yeah, it's not a big, deep class.
No, it's not. But it's just, you got to snag someone, man. We can't, unless they really like Quincy Roche, maybe, but even then, we need competition. We need a guy to fill that role for sure. Because when Watt was out, I mean, I know Watt is Watt. He's different, man. He's built different. But still, we need someone to come in and fill that role, man. Do something. So, moving on to cornerback. We all agree corner is a huge need. Very well could be the pick at 17. In fact, if it is, I wouldn't really complain.
No.
But it's a position they could focus on in free agency. We all agree Sutton should be brought back to help fill in that and just add bodies and just add him back to the secondary. I mean, he needs to stay. But if they want to add someone alongside Wallace and Sutton, or just Wallace because Sutton could be gone, let's not forget that he could be gone.
Yeah.
If they want to make a splash at cornerback, they could get someone like a Jamel Dean of the Bucs, who's been very good. His progression has been fun to watch. The past couple years, seeing how the Bucs have been doing, he might be a little costly. I feel like he's going to get a very nice payday.
Yeah.
Very similar to the one Bucs corner that went to free agency
Carlton
last year.
Davis.
Thank you. I mean,
he might get something similar. 3 years, 45, something like that.
Yeah.
No.
So, which I think is pretty decent for a starting corner. I think he's very reliable. I think he'd be very nice, and it's a decent splash.
Yeah, he's got the size, pretty bulky for his size too, and he's very speedy. I think he ran a 4.3 flat.
He's got what we need in a modern number 1 corner. If they want to go someone younger, maybe a little cheaper, but still very stellar, very underrated. We love this guy coming out of college for sure. And there's actually a photo. I got to find it, and if I do, I'll crop it on the screen. There's a photo of when he tweeted that he would love to be in the Steelers uniform. Byron Murphy. He was drafted the first pick of day 2 the year he was drafted by the Cardinals, and maybe I'm looking too much into that, but that could be a draw to him. If the Steelers so interested, he could come to Pittsburgh, seeing that he's going to be a first-time free agent. But he's a guy that could also get a decent payday. Maybe not as much as Dean or as much as the other corners, but still could be something decent for him. But if they really want to focus on corner and lock down that position,
And youth at the same time.
they could get these guys. And I'm not going to lie to you. Those are the only two guys we have listed at the cornerback position in this wish list because every other guy's an aging vet. You could say a James Bradbury, but you're going to have to replace the position in 2 years if you sign him.
You got to think, after the big year he had, a 1-year prove deal with the Eagles, he's going to be 30, and he's probably going to get a big deal. It's a big risk to sign a 30-year-old cornerback to like a 3-4 year deal when the tendency for cornerbacks is just straight down.
Exactly. I would love a Jamel Dean or a Byron Murphy. But I do see the Steelers addressing it in corner because they love a lot of guys. It is uber stacked. It might be the most stacked position
in the draft,
I've seen.
it's going to happen. I would be surprised if they didn't go in the first, maybe 3 rounds.
But I also wouldn't throw it out the window that Sutton leaves. We address corner and free agency and still draft a guy early.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that. So, I mean, we'll see. But a position I don't want to just erase because not only Sutton could be gone, but so could Edmonds.
Yeah.
So could Casey. And then we're left with no strong safety. Who's alongside Minka?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy this week, depending on what the Steelers do as far as letting guys go, all that things, and guys signing elsewhere. We might have to see this board change, which is why we do the pre-free agency mock drafts.
Yes.
Because we know it's going to.
It is.
In some capacity.
But that's why we listed safety as a wish list, just in case. Obviously, we hope Edmonds comes back and that's no longer a need. But we're still going to add these guys because that's a possible. Edmonds could be gone. Tremaine's going to be a free agent. Terrell might follow. I don't know. First name I'm going to list is Deshaun Elliott, former Raven, and last year played with the Lions, man. I think he's very dependable. He plays his role nice. Great box safety. I think he'd fit his role very well, filling in for Edmonds. I'm going to throw the same thing out there for Juan Thornhill. He's another guy I like coming out of college. You know, he's been alongside a couple different starting safeties with his tenure in the Chiefs, but very similar to Edmonds. He's improved year after year. And I think last year he came off very well. He might be a little inconsistent in some capacities.
Yeah,
but
that's my small gripe with him. It's really not that big of a deal because he definitely has flashes out there. You know, he's a credible starter. He's a hell of a player, very speedy guy. He's got the size for a safety. I feel like his tackling could be better at the same time, but Thornhill wouldn't be a bad option.
I think last year he really showcased a lot for the Chiefs in their secondary. So I'm going to throw him out there. And he's young. He could be pretty decently a decent cost as well. Another guy I'm going to throw out there because of his first-round pedigree, and I think the Steelers liked him coming out of the draft out of Michigan, Jabril Peppers.
Yeah.
He's been tossed around a little bit from, I think he was drafted by the Browns to the Giants.
Yeah, well, we all wanted him, yeah.
Yeah, Browns to the Giants to the Patriots, but even the Patriots, right? Like, he really stood out on their underrated defense last year. And I keep seeing Patriots fans, re-sign Jabril Peppers. So
Yeah.
I think, he's been fun to watch the past couple years, and he could be someone still young, plays his role well. He's a quintessential box safety, right?
Yeah,
And coming out of college, he had that linebacker safety hybrid mix.
Oh, he was that versatility, really.
He is very much like Edmonds. He's not going to make a lot of turnovers. He's not going to be very splashy, but plays his role well. Perfect box guy, downhill guy, plays the run well. I would love Peppers as a replacement for Edmonds if that's the case.
Yeah. Peppers would be a nice addition, a good compliment to make at the same time. Peppers, I feel like, is still a capable starter at 27 years old. I think he's going to be 28 when the season happens, but
I've always kept an eye on Peppers, man. He was another guy I really liked coming out of college and just kept my eye on, just see where he would come along.
Yeah.
And he's doing well.
yeah, he's still dependable. 2 other guys I wrote down. One of them is Julian Love of the Giants. Me and Den were big fans of him out of Notre Dame during the draft process a couple years ago. He's 24 years old. He's still very young.
Yeah.
He's still reliable. He's a hell of a captain for the Giants. He was a big part of that defense last year.
Yeah, I would agree. I would love any of those guys to fill in for Edmonds.
Yeah.
We obviously hope that that's not a need, but that could be, man.
It's going to be interesting.
You just listened to a clip of episode 3 of the Steeler Culture Podcast. Listen to the full extent on Spotify and watch on YouTube.